World travelers of Reddit, where did you go? That was a total disappointment. Irishman here. Florida was such a disappointing blowout. Here I was, expecting to see a bunch of fat stupid Americans, and instead, I got a pack of slim, tanned, beautiful punts. Made me feel so ducking insecure about my scrawny pale Irish face. Here I was, expecting to see a bunch of fat stupid Americans. Check out Mississippi. I was quite surprised at LA. Coming from the UK, I had a preconceived idea which wasn't really met. Sure, there were areas which were glamorous and glitzy, but so much of it wasn't. I don't dislike the city by any means. I just didn't expect the contrast of homeless people sleeping next to stars on the Walk of Fame. Homeless people sleeping next to the stars on the Walk of Fame is the perfect metaphor for show business. That homeless dude might have been sleeping next to his own star on the Walk of Fame. After 195 cities in 25 countries, I can say everywhere's disappointing. Purely, if we are talking about places, your palaces, your waterfalls, footpaths along chalky sets of cliffs, any beautiful sight is just that. I'm 28 and, if I could give my teenage self one piece of advice, it'd be talk to everyone. No destination is the sum of its sights. Local people carry the souls of places. Also food. People who travel thousands of miles to a different country and eat in McDonald's baffle me. I've totally done that. After eating Asian street food for a month or two, a bit of shutty Western fast food feels like home. Duck in Stonehenge. I guess it's alright, as far as henges go. But it's smaller than you think. You can't get close to it, and it's stuck in hours from London, which wouldn't matter if it was worth it. Duck those Neolithic tribes for not making a bigger, more sparkly henge, and doing it closer to the area that would, hundreds of years later, be formed of a number of villages and called London. No one's built a henge like that ever since. No one knows what the duck a henge is. I believe it's Latin for tourist trap. English guy here, Belarus. I've never felt so unwelcome. The police follow you everywhere. My passport was being checked constantly. I just felt like I was being watched wherever I went. Edit. So many of you had such a good time in Belarus, I think I'm going to have to go back and see if it's different. Minsk meet up anyone? I can't imagine traveling to Belarus with anything but the lowest of expectations. I love traveling, and I love exploring all kinds of weird and unusual countries. Some would surprise you. Bosnia and Albania were beautiful countries with lovely people, for example. Belarus just had nothing going for it. I haven't been to many Soviet bloc countries, but I'm hesitant to go anymore at the moment. Ukraine is lovely this time of the year, and if you ask the right guy you can get a ride in a tank. If you are going to spend the money to go to the Caribbean, do not waste it going to Jamaica. Yes, you can stay on a resort and have the time of your life, but you can do that on any of the islands. Go someplace nicer like Aruba, Cayman Island, St. Thomas. I always tell people, if you're going to an all-inclusive resort, don't worry about the specific island or beach you're on. Just find the resort that you like and a price that fits your budget. They're basically all the same, and if you're not leaving the resort much, the specific location within the Caribbean doesn't really make much of a difference. Bruges. For some reason, my boss sent me there. I was led to believe it was some magical place. With its canals and churches and such, it was supposed to be like something out of a fairy tale. It wasn't. It was shut. Even the racist midgets there had to take drugs to manage. I did end up going on a date with an attractive local, but even that ended up being mostly disappointing. It involved 2 instances of extreme violence, 1 instance of her hand on my cock and my finger up her thing, which lasted all too briefly, 1 instance of me stealing 5 grams of very high quality cocaine, and 1 instance of me blinding a puffy little skinhead. At the end of it all, I came to the realization that maybe that's what hell is, the entire rest of eternity spent in Duck in Bruges. Malé, capital of the Maldives. What a shithole. Rest of the Maldives was incredible. Looks like I'd be a bit cramped. Maybe that's why there's nowhere for the shut to go. Reminds me of my SimCity attempts. Blackpool, England. I went there for work, and it's always been spoken of as a lovely seaside town, with the illuminations being an incredible spectacle. The town was shut, it was dirty, full of chads binge drinking on the streets. I got shouted at several times because I had long hair and piercings. I went into a newsagent's to buy a little bit of food, and it was, no word of a lie, 90% alcohol, including test tube shots at the counter. 2 out of 10 would not return to that hole, ever. Where are you from? You can't be British. If you are, then you'd know Blackpool is a shithole. Tunis in 2010. Ducking hated that place. Wasn't at all surprised when the people revolted like 6 months later. I was like, shut, I'd revolt too. That place sucked. Tokyo. Just kidding. Tokyo will blow minds for centuries to come. Hopefully. So happy not to see Pakistan on here. Just kidding. No one ever visits us. Edit. Can't believe my top post is about Pakistan. On the bright side, I would encourage all of you to visit. Seriously. In the news it sounds like a shutty place. Some parts of it are. But the country and culture still have a lot to offer, which oftentimes gets skipped over. Go to Lahore and check out some of the remaining structures from the Mughal period. Go north, where it's safe, and experience the beauty the country has to offer. Murray is one place I won't forget. I've been to Iraq twice. Both times it was shutty. Way too hot. Buildings were just falling apart. Trash in the streets. Horrible drivers. Roads had huge potholes in them. And the food provided on the trip sucked ass too. The first time I was there the people were pretty nice. Almost dancing in the streets when me and my friends rolled up. The second time, everyone was an asshole. Even the kids threw rocks at us. I would not recommend visiting there. Sounds like my trip to Afghanistan. Gotta admit though, still had a blast. I'm from Holland and usually travel to Asia. Lived in Hong Kong for a year, so I guess I'm used to these big cities with massively high buildings, tons of people and awesome food. However, we decided to try the US last year. We went on a trip to Florida and drove in our rental car from Orlando to Miami. Yeah, I don't want to offend anyone, so I'll keep it short. People were really nice overall, but it was just not what we expected whatsoever. The hardest part for me was not being able to find any nice food anywhere. I don't know if we just did something wrong, but all we saw were miles and miles of highway and homes, and no people on the street. It's quite hard to describe, but it was just the feeling of emptiness. A lot of shopping centers. Everyone seemed to be mainly going to those, which was kind of cool. I mean, I got to see Walmart and the famous fat people in the electric carts. We loved the supermarkets and the shopping stuff, but there was just not a lot of anything else. Naples, Italy. The city had piles of trash on the streets. Really near Naples there is a little gem called Sorrento. Beautiful. Paris. Just a complete disappointment. Dubai was shut. An overpriced, superficial, fake and unfriendly city. As well, they had no space for my camel. My wife and I really enjoyed Paris. We weren't crowded. Everyone was polite. The food was great. There was history everywhere. The museums were incredible. At 9 AM on a Tuesday, edit Wednesday in November, there's no line to see the Mona Lisa. The worst thing was the trophy wife obnoxiously making out with her husband on a river tour. Like, making eye contact with people, so we would see her being intoxicated with romance. Gross. Earth. Way too crowded. I prefer the Red Planet. I'm from Luton in the UK. If anyone says it's disappointing, they're lying. People come here expecting a shithole, and that's exactly what they get. Daytona Beach, FL. Friends somehow convinced me to go a few years ago. Never again will I enter that city of my own free will. It looked like a diseased husk of its former tourist trap self. Foreclosed and or shutty buildings abound. There is literally nothing to do there, aside from going to the shutty, dilapidated beach and eating at Joe's Crab Shack. No one has said the Leaning Tower of Pisa yet. It is so tiny compared to what you would have expected from pictures. The buildings around it are a lot nicer. It is overall very lame. Agreed. Stopped for 15 minutes for the obligatory pictures on the way to the airport. Had a bad slice of pizza and got a parking ticket. Will never go back. Germany. Just kidding. That place was ducking awesome. France was full of rude pricks, though, especially in Paris. My experience, Germany, oh, you are trying to speak German. That's great. Let's practice together. You speak German and I'll speak English. France, you are trying to speak French. Don't even bother, you stupid American. You sound like a fool. Our language is much too rich for your coarse Yankee tongue. Go back home where you belong.